It was the summer of 1992 when a young 48-year-old man from a mill village just down the road arrived at a place called Wingate College.
Call it destiny that he grew up 43 miles from Wingate in a thriving textile mill town outside Rockingham called Robberdale. The town had 800 residents and 2 doctor's offices in the early 1900s.
It was a place that shaped a young Jerry McGee's life and the institution he would eventually lead. In his book called Robberdale, A Village of Grace, McGee writes, "They taught us to be responsible, to respect the feelings and opinions of others, and to be productive members of our community.
And that we could do anything we wished to do with our talents and our lives, if we were willing to work fairly and diligently." Danny Cadell is Jerry McGee's brother.
Everybody knew everybody and looked after each other. And I think it ingrained in us principles that we carried forth in our adult life.
Growing up just a couple counties over gave McGee a front row seat to be able to keep tabs on this place with so much possibility.
It was Thad Woodard, longtime president of the North Carolina Bankers Association, who came up with McGee's name.
Clark Goodwin was a very, very dear friend of mine, and Wingate has never had a better friend than Clark Goodwin. When they were looking for a new president, Clark called me and said, "Thad, we've kind of run up on the rocks and we need some names." I said, "Well, there's only one name. You need to call Jerry McGee. He's at Furman."
I would like to present Dr. McGee to you now. Thank you.
McGee arrived in the summer of 1992 and had some prophetic words at his first news conference.
I would like to feel like during these next 10 to 20 years that I've got the potential here to really make a difference.
He's stayed 23 years, an incredible amount of time in higher ed, where presidents can change as quickly as the seasons. Luther Moore was on the Presidential Search Committee in '92.
It was a good chemistry, a good fit. I remember during the interview we had with him, I asked him a question that made him mad. I could tell he was mad because I challenged him about something. You could see the steam coming out of there. But he passed the test.
On McGee's watch, Wingate achieved university status, nearly tripled enrollment, added new bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs, built 37 new buildings, conferred 7,888 degrees, added campuses in Ballantyne, in South Charlotte, and Hendersonville in the North Carolina mountains, secured close to $200 million in gifts and grants for scholarships and the endowment, and forged important relationships. One of the first fundraising calls of McGee's presidency was to the Cannon Foundation, the Charles A. Cannon family, who had donated so much over the years. Frank Davis, president of Cannon Charitable Interests, on Wingate's transformation.
An institution fulfilling its potential, being challenged, utilizing well the resources it had then, which generated additional resources over time.
Another significant relationship came with Charlotte philanthropist Porter B. Byram, whose gift of the Park Road Shopping Center in 2011, worth $21 million, was the single biggest gift Wingate's received.
It wasn't the kind of a relationship where he was even pushing me to do anything for. I think he was as much surprised as anything when he found out that I was making this contribution to him.
Byram's gift, among many things, established the Byram Scholars, which generously funds students who are bright and have financial need. A photo is taken each year as more students are added.
For 16 of his 23 years at Wingate, McGee doubled as university president and football official, the only college president we could find that's done so. His career began with officiating high school games as a way to pay his wife's college tuition. Then a few college games were thrown his way, then a few more.
Then a few years later, I'm working the Orange Bowl. I mean, it's kind of crazy how it all worked out, but I officiated 400 college games. I officiated probably almost every major game. I was Southern Cal, Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Army, Navy, 26 bowl games, 3 national championships.
Games McGee calls memorable, but then there are unforgettable plays too, like this one, when he got clocked by an offensive wide receiver at the Louisville Pitt game in 1994.
Jerry McGee is an exceptional person. First of all, not many people have officiated at the high level that he has. He's done all the big games.
In May 2012, McGee was inducted into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame.
I always felt like every time I was given the opportunity to put on a striped shirt and officiate the game, that it was important to the players, it was important to the coaches, it was important to the fans, so it had to be important to me.
His career on the field gave him great experience in making important decisions, something he'd have to do off the turf as a university president.
Everything that we've done at the sports since Dr. McGee arrived is a credit to him. I mean, obviously, with the addition of new sports, with the facilities that we have to play in, with the coaching staff that we've been able to assemble.
Wingate University is home to 500 student athletes, that's 1 out of 3 undergrads, and hosts 22 NCAA Division II sports. For the past 8 years, the university has won the South Atlantic Conference Eccles Athletic Excellence Award based on the success of the sports programs. But McGee isn't just an advocate for athletics, he's also a spectator at most sporting events, and when he's not in the stands, rest assured he's tweeting out his pride, boasting about a team's success.
I think university administration has to be committed to making every decision based on what is the best thing for our students. If it's the best thing for our students, it's the best thing for our university.
And that's been McGee's mantra for the 44 years he's worked in education. What's best for the students? G.R. Kinley, former Rockingham mayor, Board of Transportation member, and McGee friend for 40 plus years.
He's been a role model for the young, the older, and all in between. His intentions was to be successful and to help people.
And he'll leave a legacy long after he's gone, says Hope Williams, president of North Carolina Independent Colleges and Universities.
It really is a legacy of leading the university to be in a position to help the dreams of a college education come true for students. And to think about the difference that that education is going to make in their lives and in the lives of their families and in the expansion of what their futures can be is as wonderful a legacy as anyone could have.
Two individuals who have played prominent roles in our President McGee's life are his 2 sons, Ryan and Sam. He calls them his best friends. Ryan is a senior writer for ESPN, and Sam is an attorney who practices law here in Charlotte, albeit on opposite my side, I will say that. And fellas, why don't you and Ryan, you and Sam come to the podium and let's have some comments from you.
You guys know a fair amount about our dad. We thought that we might tell you a few things that you might not know. Booker knows most of them. Did you know that no person named Jerry Edward McGee was ever born, but there was a Jerry McGee who, when he turned 18, took a quarter to the Richmond County Courthouse and purchased the middle name Edward?
Did you know that Jerry McGee learned how to do battle that would help him later in life dealing with everyone from faculty to staff to politicians to us? He learned how to fight thanks to a rooster named Big Red. Big Red was the meanest rooster that ever lived. And Dad and his best friend and uncle used to fight Big Red at every turn. And then finally, when Big Red attacked my Uncle Danny, they had the best fried chicken dinner of all time.
Did you know that University President Jerry McGee once tried to flush an entire litter of kittens down the toilet because he was afraid his grandfather was going to kill them.
He was 3. It did not happen a year ago, so PETA, leave us alone. Did you know the video clip we saw earlier where he got his clock clean and literally thought he'd had some teeth knocked out? I was an entry-level production assistant at ESPN. And the way it worked in was they put us all in this basement and pay us minimum wage, and we wrote down everything that happened in football games, and we cut highlights for SportsCenter. I was not assigned to this game. I was assigned to a different game. And all of a sudden, a groan went out. Oh. I kept working on my game, and finally someone says, "Hey, Ryan, your dad might be dead."
If they had let that video run for about 2 more seconds, you don't always want to read people's lips during sporting events, but I remember what he said. What he said was, "Where's my hat?" Did you know that Dad and his friends used to hide beneath a bridge in Robberdale because they knew the Coca-Cola man would take the turn too fast, and they would collect the bottles that fell off the back of the truck? And for this, the bridge is now named the Jerry E. McGee Bridge.
Did you know? I'm trying to filter out, trying to read my audience here. But did you know, another ESPN screening room story, it was a Thursday night game, Boston College, I don't remember who they were playing. Dan Henning, head coach of Boston College, who would later become
Careful with this one.
Yeah.
This is one of those don't read the lip stories.
Yeah. Dan Henning would later become offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers. What we could see was the satellite feed coming from the game. America doesn't see what happens during the commercials. We could hear it in Bristol, Connecticut. And all of a sudden there's a shouting match starts happening. And someone says, "I know that's Coach Henning's voice. That other voice sounds a lot like you, Ryan." And right on cue, Mike Tirico of Monday Night Football now, who's doing play-by-play for the game, he says, "Hey, somebody in the truck check. I think Dan Henning is having a shouting match with Ryan McGee's dad."
Did you know that on his first day of high school, Dad knocked a guy out cold in the hallway for referring to the children of textile workers as a lint head?
Did you know Dad was not only the first person in our family to graduate from college, he was the first one to even consider going to college. Since then, everyone in the family has gone to college, and everyone in the family has graduated from college. And did you know that we were living a very comfortable life at Furman University that had a lot of money in the bank and whose ceilings in the classrooms weren't leaking? And did you know that Dad took a job at a school that, quite frankly, had the opposite of all that in 1992, because that same mission of making sure that people back home went to college and finished college?
Did you know that after his father died and he and his mother moved in with his grandfather, that he taught his grandfather how to write his name on his paychecks so he would not have to cash them after just making his mark?
And did you know that when his father passed away, he made sure that the funeral procession went out of its way to go through his old neighborhood and over that bridge so that everyone in here made sure they saw where he came from. He didn't show up in a suit, and it was important for everyone to understand that.
Did you know that in 1987, Dad almost left higher education to be the president of a K through 12 Baptist institution in Hawaii? When he decided to move to Travelers Rest, South Carolina instead, his sons did not approve.
Did you know that I was a sophomore in high school and I had already told all my friends we were going to be moving to Honolulu? And then suddenly I started backing off my claims. And one day, my track coach, the great Gus Lovett of Enloe High School, called me in his office and said, "I heard you were moving to Hawaii." I said, "I don't know, Coach." He said, "I also heard you were moving to South Carolina." I said, "I don't know, Coach." He said, "McGee, what's it going to be? Aloha or yeehaw?"
Did you know that throughout our childhood, Dad would make up stories when he put us to bed at night about two brothers named Rasmussen and Passmussen? Somehow, Rasmussen always ended up covered in pickle juice.
There's really nothing to add there. That's how they all ended. Did you know that I have on the lapel pin right now, that those pictures we saw earlier when Dad walked up to the podium, this is the lapel pin they gave us that day at that press conference. And that was the same day we had walked around and looked at those classrooms. And we went into the chapel beside Austin Auditorium where they were keeping paint cans. And we walked over to the old gymnasium with the rats in the floor that we saw torn down in those pictures earlier. And I remember right before I put the pin on, I go, "We're cool with this, right?"
Did you know that in an article published in the Meredith College magazine about Dad in the 80s, he said that he had one son that might want to be a lawyer and another son that might want to work in television, and he really hoped he'd give him a chance to do whatever it was they wanted to do.
So thank you.
I know Luther might want us to sit down, but we're not going to do that quite yet. I just want to say something briefly about something that you do know about Jerry McGee. And the thing that I know that you all know about Jerry McGee is that in the universe in which he exists, there is no such thing as good enough. And when he came to Wingate, there was a problem that he and Mom perceived. There had been so many good folks at this college, and were still so many good folks there. But people don't think about it this way a lot of times, but this is a competitive business. I mean, I know it's not a business in the truest sense, but it's competitive. And there was a certain mentality that mediocrity might be good enough. As my mom used to say, well, we always say around here, we're proud, but we're po'. And when Dad arrived, he arrived and insisted that mediocrity was not going to be good enough. And when the faculty each year would send out their requisition sheets saying, what do we want, what do we need in our departments, almost no one sent them out because they had gotten used to never getting what they asked for. That year, everyone who sent in the form got what they asked for. A few forms arrived late after that. But then when he said to the entire faculty, if you're going to be a professor here, you have to achieve the highest degree in your field, everybody got the message. We're going to be treated better, but we also have to be better. We have to challenge ourselves to get better. And during that time, there was a freshman student here, very pretty tennis player, homecoming queen, who almost left Wingate College as a freshman because she came and she said, I'm not sure this is the right place for me. But she stayed. And I'm very glad you stayed, because I cannot imagine my life if you had not. But the students got inspired, the faculty got inspired, the administration got inspired, the trustees got inspired, and sometimes it was big ideas like university status, like a pharmacy school, like not starting a law school, which is a good decision. And you look at 37 buildings, $200 million in gifts. People like the Kresge Foundation, the Anderson Foundation, the Levine group that had not had that long-standing relationship with Wingate. You brought in a guy that could raise money, and that was really important. But you also brought in a guy who just wasn't going to settle for anything less than what he dreamt Wingate could be like. A lot of you guys were at his inauguration speech, and he talked about a lot of the great leaders that had been at Wingate, the C.C. Burris's and W.T. Harris's and Bud Smith's. And he talked about a sermon that W.T. Harris's preacher gave a few weeks after he died. And he was talking about how do you replace giants. And the line that he came back to was, who will tend the roses? And Dad challenged everybody that day. He said, who will tend the roses? I will. Will you join me? And so many people did. So many people that are here today did. Some of you have been here basically the whole time. Rhett and Scotty and Steve and Martha Asti. Some of you guys have been here the whole time. Some of you were here most of the time, like Betty Manus. Some of you have gone on to other places like Frank. Frank and Dad used to say, we're either going to fix this place or kill it. And I think I know which one they did. And then folks that aren't with us anymore, like Clark Goodwin, who I told Cynthia on the phone, without Clark, my family's not what it is. Dad doesn't get here. I don't ever meet Marcy. And, you know, Harry Sherwood tended the roses. My mother tended the roses. Dean Haskins tended the roses. So many people answered that call. And so how do you tend the roses for someone who has done everything that Dad has done? And I will just say, unsolicited advice from a guy who's never worked one day on a college campus, you don't do it by saying, how do we maintain the level we have achieved? Because just as mediocrity was not good enough 23 years ago, being good now, or even excellent now, is not good enough. The way you tend the roses for someone like Jerry McGee is to be creative and to challenge yourself and to make bold decisions and to do the same type of things that he has done. Because the first step to getting worse is to decide that you're not going to get any better. And your competitors are always trying to get better. And so Dad has kind of moved now from the end of that speech at his inauguration where he said, I will tend the roses, to now he's back at the beginning of the speech. He's the one looking back over 23 years and saying, who will tend the roses that I have planted? And I know a lot of people right here in this room are going to be the people that are going to do it. And you're going to preserve his legacy, and you're going to preserve my family's legacy, and we will be very grateful for it. Thank you.
I did not lean over to Rhett just now and say good luck, but I thought about it. My brother talked about tending the roses, and I want to mention, we're here to talk about Dad, but I want to mention 4 people in particular. It's funny, my family, we just returned from spring break not 5 hours ago, and we were in Memphis, and we toured the great old rock and roll and soul music studios, and we toured the Civil Rights Museum, and we saw this underlying theme of all of this, which was the unsung heroes, and it was almost always a woman, because that was the time. And when I think about our time here, I think about 4 women in particular. I think about a lot of you, and we'll talk individually. I think about Etta Faye Starnes, who helped so much in that initial transition that Sam talked about making that transition from the college to the university, and from the way things were done, and she was there for that, and the way things were going to be done, and she was there for that, and she helped with that. And Etta Faye Starnes, who's Etta Faye Starnes, now we'll always be thankful for that. Betty Maness, the reason I asked you what year is because I was going to bring it up. 1996, Betty Maness took that seat right beside Dad's. The world will never know what she did for our family. And I'm not just talking about keeping Dad from killing faculty members, John Blizzard. I'm talking about making sure he's where he's supposed to be, do what he's supposed to do, remind him you may or may not want to say this when you walk out these doors. This person's waiting, good luck, that kind of stuff. But also helping us through the most difficult time in our life. And that was when we lost Mom. And I am now, and we all will forever be grateful for what you did for us. And I truly hope that when she's done very soon, that she gets the exit she deserves, because it's been remarkable. And I wish everybody could see what I've seen. So thank you. We love you. You know, it's a strange thing, too. What happens, we lost Mom 16 years ago into February. And there's a weird thing that happens with time, and we all know this, where you start to think that your parents saw something that they didn't actually see, whether it was something you did, or something that your spouse did, or something that your child did, or somebody in your family did. And as the years go on, you start thinking, man, you remember when Mom saw that? And you think, no, Mom didn't see that. It was 16 years ago. But Mom has seen everything that we've done. And to see these pictures up here today, and little secret, there are times when I walk into the Fine Arts Center and just look at the picture, because I just want her to know. And that lobby's hers. She designed that. We would walk into the house, and she would have the plans for the Bat Center laid out on a table, and picked everything from the carpet to the walls to the windows to everything. And I hope everybody understands that. And that's why that building is so special. And my wife has performed there. That's why it's so special. And even though she didn't see the final product, the dreams were Mom and Dad's. Those were the plans they came up with. We talk all the time about this, the center of campus now, and getting that road out of there. And everybody pats Dad on the back and says, man, good job on that. That took 20 years. Dad started talking about that at his inauguration. We got to get this road out of here. That's how long it took. You're dealing with with the government and everything else, and it took a long time. Mom knew about that. Mom saw the grand plan for campus. Mom knew about the Fine Arts Center, and she didn't get to see these things finish. She has. But obviously we wish we were here. Part of the reason that you think that she was there for these things is because of the gift we've had Marcella McInnes. Because she has has eased into this family and has honored the legacy of Mom, and has honored the memory of Mom like we honor the memory of her husband, Robert. Matt's here tonight. But to take on what Marcella has taken on, and to step into the role of being the president's wife, which is not easy. And there's a little bit of a performance to that. There's a lot of performance to that. And it's getting to know a lot of people very quickly. And a lot of us in this room have known each other for 20 plus years. She just kind of crashed into this party not so long ago, but learned everybody's name, what their background is, what they do. And I hope everybody understands that, because it's a difficult thing to walk into this situation, as beautiful as this family is and this campus is. And I thank God every day for you, because I love you. And you love my dad, and that's the most important thing. And I'm so glad Matt's here tonight. But that's the truth. But that's it. And those are there's so many names and so many faces and so many stories of people that we all know and that I hope as the history of this great university moves on that we remember those people. And I want to say this too, I'm excited about that man right there. And he and I were just joking about the fact that when Dad took this job, I was a junior at Tennessee, about to be a senior. I graduated college, didn't have a job. That was the last time the economy was in bad shape. And I just kind of hung around campus, and I usually just hung out at his apartment. And he convinced a buddy of his to help me get a $50 a game gig at the Monroe Enquirer-Journal. And that helped. It worked out. But I'm excited about Rhett, and I'm excited about the future. And just remember those four women, because they're the pillars of not just Wingate, but not just Dad, but just that family legacy that my brother's talking about. Thank y'all so much.
Our next speaker, you might recall seeing on the nightly news on TV in Charlotte a number of years ago. Bob Inman was the senior anchor at WBTV Channel 3 for 26 years, from 1970 to 1996. For the past 2 decades, he's found his love of writing as an accomplished novelist, screenwriter, and playwright. His current project that he's working on is a book about the history of Wingate University during the 23 years of Jerry McGee's presidency. This book will be coming out this fall. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming a dear friend of Wingate University, Bob Inman.
I want you all to know that I mean no disrespect by my attire tonight. I was so excited to get here that I walked out of the house in Conover without my jacket. And I hope the brilliance of my remarks will make you sort of forget that I'm up here in shirt sleeves. But I'll tell you what, during the reception, a lot of you guys were looking at me with envy, because I was the coolest guy in the room. Paulette and I deeply appreciate your including us in this very special evening. And I am pleased and honored to say a few words about a man and a university that I have come to admire greatly in the past several months. As I have talked to so many people and heard and read so much about the past 23 years at Wingate, I have been frankly astonished at what this university has accomplished. It is a great story to tell, and I'm trying my best to do it justice. I believe that all stories, no matter the form they take, are about people. And it is the people of Wingate I am writing about. Students, faculty, staff, alumni, trustees, donors, friends, the community at large. Much of the work that has been done at Wingate since its very beginning in 1896 has been to nurture the family atmosphere that is so crucial to the university's legacy. I think it's important to the spirit of Wingate that it is a residential university. People live, play, work, and worship elbow to elbow. I heard a wise man say one time that you can't stay mad at somebody if you have to look them in the eye every day. Not only can you not stay mad at them, you learn over time who they are, what they are about, and what matters to them. You pat them on the back when they succeed, and you pick them up when they fall. That is the essence of family. The Wingate story is that of many people, but the person we're here to honor and celebrate tonight is the man who has, by force of wisdom, compassion, and sheer persistence, guided Wingate to the school it is today. He is a family man in so many very good ways. I think to truly understand any person, you have to know where they come from, the people and forces that shape them, right from the very beginning. You have to know the circumstances in which they've lived, the ideas and values they've been exposed to, the lessons of life that they have absorbed. All of us tote baggage around with us from our past, and if the baggage is good and meaningful, it has a great positive effect on how we live our lives today. In trying to get a handle on Jerry McGee, I keep going back to that little mill village called Robberdale on the outskirts of Rockingham. After I visited there, I said, "Dr. McGee, I have been to the mountaintop." As he and others have eloquently said, It was a village of grace with a powerful influence on the souls who lived and worked and grew up there over the years. In Jerry McGee's youth, it was a vibrant, bustling place of hard-working people, close-knit families, good neighbors, adults who looked out for the young folks and taught them by example what it was to be honest and forthright. Dr. McGee summed it up himself in his book about Robert L. when he wrote about what he and his classmates learned at Robert L. School. You've heard it once tonight, but I think it's worth repeating because it is a recipe for a good life. They taught us to be responsible, to respect the feelings and opinions of others, and to be productive members of our community. They made sure we understood that everybody was equal in the eyes of God, no matter where they lived, who their parents were, or what color their skin was, and that we could do anything we wished to do with our talents and our lives if we were willing to work fairly and diligently. We agree that Jerry McGee learned those lessons well and has applied them all of his life, not just in his career in higher education, but in all of his dealings with his fellow man. He has said that he has often crossed the bridge across Hitchcock Creek leading out of Robert L., but his heart remains there, and it's fitting that his name is on that bridge. Time and time again during the research for this book, I've had people say to me that one of the best qualities about Dr. McGee is that he never forgot where he was from. He has been involved in some important projects in Rockingham, spearheading the effort to save the community's recreational facility when he was a young man. More recently, the drive to build the Discovery Place Kids Science Museum. But it's more than that. Remembering where he came from has meant being true to Robert L. values, no matter where he has lived or who he has dealt with. He's passed along those values to everyone he has touched, especially his best friends, the very eloquent Ryan and Sam. One thing Dr. McGee learned in Robert L. was the power of dreams, and his oft-repeated advice to young people is, don't ever let anybody steal your dream. He and his family dreamed of something that was almost unheard of in the Robert L. of his youth, a college education. They and he worked hard to make that happen. When he finished at East Carolina University, he came home and eventually to his first job in higher education at Richmond Tech. He was like a shade tree mechanic, working on just about anything that had to do with running an institution. But one of the things he seemed to find most satisfying was going to civic clubs and raising scholarship money to help the kids at Richmond Tech go to school. He saw himself in them, young people from families of modest means at best, needing a helping hand to pursue a dream. That has continued all of his life in higher education. He has raised millions of dollars in scholarship money to fuel dreams. And the impact of that on the lives of thousands of young men and women is immeasurable. So many of the students at Wingate over the years have been the first in their families to go to college. Jerry McGee wanted to give them the best possible chance to dream and to make their dreams happen. There was one dream Dr. McGee didn't realize, as his friend Norma Gwen Baxley Garris told me when she took me on a tour of Robert L. a couple of months ago. She was so proud of the man he had become, proud that he had done such a good job as president of Wingate. Considering all that, she said, I don't guess he's too sad that he didn't get his dream job. He really wanted to be the first baseman for the New York Yankees. So maybe in sports it was the next best thing, refereeing national college championship football games with millions of people looking on. Many of you here tonight are trustees, and some were on the board when Wingate went looking for that new president in 1992. I know from talking to you that you weren't just looking for the next person to captain the ship. You were concerned about the ship itself. You did some studying, some soul searching. You talked to folks outside the institution. What was Wingate? What did it aspire to be? And what kind of person did you need to get there? The details may not have been specific, but the goals certainly were. You saw that Wingate was a good school, but good wasn't good enough. There were lots of good schools around. lots of competition from schools doing the very same things. Wingate needed to separate itself from the pack, to become distinctive as well as distinguished. So you needed somebody who could bring drive and vision to Wingate that would result in uniqueness as well as quality. Wingate needed to emerge. And as I heard a Southern governor say many years ago, it's expensive to emerge. So you also needed somebody who could raise money. Jerry McGee's name kept coming up, and to your credit, you sold him on two things. First of all, he was needed, and second, he could make a difference. So he came, and he brought some good people with it, and nurtured the careers of others he found at Wingate along the way. He did what needed to be done. He raised expectations. He put good people in the right places and insisted on their very best effort. He shared the credit for the good things that happened. Along the way, he remained, and remains today, the fellow from Robberdale. And there are a couple of qualities he took from that little village that made him a great fundraiser. First, he's genuine. I've had so many people tell me that his best trait is how he connects with people, and that includes everybody. Old friends from Robberdale, folks who sit at the head of the table in corporate boardrooms. Second, he's purposeful. He doesn't just walk in and say, give us some money because we're good folks. He says, here's something concrete we want to do, and here's how you can help us do it. Then he goes back later and says, here's what we've done with your generosity, and we want you to keep being generous. Being genuine and purposeful, that sounds like Robberdale to me. I don't need to expound on the details of how you and he and all of the other folks who care about Wingate have made a difference over the past 23 years. The dramatic rise in the numbers and quality of students, the bold move to pharmacy and the other health sciences, the millions of dollars in private giving that have helped fuel the growth, the sterling quality of the faculty, the first-rate staff, the fine new buildings and renovations, the gently elegant way in which relations with the Baptist State Convention evolved, Ballantyne and Hendersonville, the athletic success. You can read about all that in this book I'm writing. But I can tell you that the working title I'm using for the book is Wingate Unbound, because I see that in these 23 years, with Jerry McGee guiding Wingate and giving so much of himself to it, Wingate has broken whatever bonds tied it down in 1992 when he came to work. Wingate has separated itself from the pack, become distinctive and distinguished, and done all of that while never losing that essential feeling of family, of an institution where people pitch in and help each other and love each other. Dr. McGee has told his staff repeatedly during this past year that he did not intend to be a lame duck president, and he has not been. Things have continued to move and shake. No moss has grown, no cobwebs are gathering, nobody is sitting on their laurels. But we talked by phone a couple of weeks ago, and he said he felt like a lame duck for the very first time because a couple of problems had come up and he had laid them in Rhett Brown's lap. I've come to know and admire and respect Rhett, and I'm sure he will handle those problems just fine. But the best thing that's landed in Rhett's lap is a wonderful university full of great people doing great things with the resources to do even more. That is Jerry McGee's legacy. He's never let anybody steal his dream, and he's done the best thing you can do with a dream. He has passed it on. So Jerry McGee, from one who has come to consider himself sort of an honorary bulldog, and speaking for all of these folks who love you and love Wingate University, thank you, and God bless you.
Only the finest North Carolina citizens are given the Order of the Longleaf Pine. A few individuals received the Old North State Award from the governor, but our president, Dr. Jerry McGee, was awarded both of these, and Governor Pat McCrory has written a touching letter for tonight's occasion. Jerry, may I read you the letter? I'm going to ask you to hold it while I read, because I've got a copy. Whoa! I got a copy of it. It's a big frame. Dear Dr. McGee, on behalf of the state of North Carolina, it is a pleasure to congratulate you on your retirement as president at Wingate University, and thank you for the 20 years of service. Ann and I are pleased to join your family, friends, and community in commending you on a job well done. Wingate University and all of North Carolina are stronger because of your dedication to providing a quality education that prepares students to meet the challenges of our 21st century economy. You have served with honor and distinction, and your work ethic and commitment to being and doing your best are greatly appreciated and will be missed. North Carolina is proud to have dedicated citizens like you working in higher education. Thank you for your service. You have truly made a difference. Kind regards, Pat McCrory, Governor, State of North Carolina. He wanted to be here, but he had a previous commitment.
They say that behind every great man, there's an even greater woman, and that's certainly true in this case. Marcella McGee carries out the role of Wingate's First Lady very well. She can be seen at musical and athletic events. I understand she's a great fan of the volleyball team. She travels with Jerry when they go with students on the Wingate International Study Abroad seminars. She takes time to visit with students one-on-one. Marcella, the Board of Trustees wants to give you a small token of our appreciation for your partnership and all that you have done for Wingate University. If she would like. That's a hint. Yeah, that's a hint.
Oh my. Where are they? I don't know what to say. Oh, I'm ready. Oh, thank you. Okay, so let's see what it says. My initials.
You have a lovely husband.
No. That is not what it is.
First Lady.
Oh, how sweet. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Board of Trustees, getting a gift for Marcella was easy. But the Board of Trustees really had to think about and struggle a little bit over what the appropriate gift would be for someone who has impacted thousands, hundreds of students' lives. And so we finally came up that the best way to do this was to honor Jerry McGee with a scholarship. We're calling it the Jerry E. McGee Scholarship, established in honor of the university's 9th president. It will be Wingate University's first all-encompassing scholarship, providing tuition, fees, room and board for the best and the brightest. McGee scholars will possess high academic credentials and be highly involved in leadership and service in their high schools. During their time at Wingate, they'll take honor courses and be exposed to opportunities designed to develop their leadership skills. We plan to have 5 McGee scholars in the 2016-2017 school year. Jerry, this is our trustees' gift to you. Now, the trustees do have a little bit of tangible property for you, so you don't go away empty-handed tonight. We'd like to give you this beautiful pewter cup. that we hope will remind you of our appreciation of you and your significant accomplishments during these last 23 years. I'm going to read to you what's on the cup since it's hard to read from there, but if you'd like to follow along, it's on your program at the bottom. It reads, Wingate University, Dr. Jerry E. McGee, President, 23 years of leadership, service, and progress, student success, student athlete excellence, faculty of distinction, campus development, renewal and transformation, School of Pharmacy, new bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs, Porter B. Byram School of Business and Byram Scholars, Levine College of Health Sciences, record fundraising, enrollment, and endowment, unprecedented financial stability, $100 million Secure the Promise campaign. But tonight I want to let you know that Dr. McGee and his team are past the $100 million campaign, and as of today, it's $101,798,269. To go on to finish, Ballantyne Campus, Hendersonville Campus, McGee Promenade. Congratulations on a job well done. And Jerry, I invite you to make whatever remarks you'd like to make.
Thank you. It has been a significant honor to have been president of Wingate University for even one day, but especially for 23 years. My family and I appreciate the confidence you showed in us back in 1992. It has been a great joy to work alongside such dedicated and honorable people. I'm especially grateful to the Board of Trustees who allowed us to dream big dreams and then helped us to make those dreams come true. My brother Danny and I grew up in a family and in a village where we were loved and encouraged, where it was made very clear that it was important to love your family, care for your neighbors, and to give an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. Although no one in our family and very few people we knew had gone to college, our dear teachers and our parents began talking with us about such opportunities even as we were children. Quite frankly, as you've heard, I wasn't very interested at that point because I was confident I'd be playing for the Yankees very soon. When it became apparent that wasn't going to work out, I started trying to figure out how to attend college. I soon found out that it cost a lot of money to go to college, and that's the one thing we didn't have. We had a very nice and comfortable home sitting alongside the Robert L. Mill Pond. Great place to be a little boy. We had nice clothes to wear, plenty of food to eat, and an incredible amount of love. But it became obvious at a very early age that if you wanted a little something extra, you had to get a job. And when I discovered it would cost, and today's students are going to love this, when I discovered it was going to cost $1,000 a year to go to college, I wasn't sure I'd be able to pursue that dream. Most families in our area made $60, $75 a week for working in the textile mills. However, by mowing grass, delivering newspapers, selling dish rags, and working in a grocery store, I began to save a few dollars here and there. If I made $30 working in the grocery store, I would keep $3 for spending money and put $27 in the savings and loan. And at the savings and loan, they give you a little book. And in that book, they would always put in when you made a deposit, and you could always see what your balance was. Now, all the tellers at the savings and loan, the people I worked for, my neighbors who loved me, and my family, were all very much aware of my goal. And when I finally reached $1,000, we all celebrated that I could go to college for at least 1 year. Saving for the second year was a totally different situation because I only had 3 months to earn the money I needed. That's when I got introduced to the 12 midnight to 8 a.m. shift in the textile mill, where I also played for the textile baseball team. I was constantly out of money during my college days, and so many times my dreams could have crashed. But every time I got discouraged, someone stepped up to help me. When I ran out of money one spring, the East Carolina baseball coach found some extra meal tickets. When I told one of my professors I would not be able to come back to school the next year, his best friend, the intramural director, called and offered me a job as student director. And when I literally did have to drop out of college for one semester, almost magically, because of one of our neighbors, a job appeared on the railroad, which allowed me to earn enough money to return to school after Christmas. I guess my personal situation is why I've always felt such joy when we were given the opportunity to help a young man or woman who needed financial aid to attend Wingate. As I look upon this audience, I see so many people who have given their personal encouragement to me and others their financial encouragement to our work at Wingate University. The greatest blessing of my work has been the fact that my job has given me an opportunity to enjoy a friendship with you. Every leadership opportunity you've accepted, every board you've been willing to serve on, every check you've been willing to write has made a profound difference to our university and to our students. It has helped to assure that the next generation of young scholars will have the financial support they need to prepare for lives of great significance. None of us will ever make a more important investment. Recently, someone asked me how I felt about my work ending. And Luther, I think I responded the way I did to your question back when I was being interviewed. I bristled just a bit as I reminded them that as long as Heather Branscombe from the class of 2001 continues to teach her fourth grade students, as long as Dr. Brad Buckler from the class of 1998 continues to save the lives of newborn babies in his work in neonatal medical care, as long as Trey Sykes from the class of 06 is providing pharmaceutical care to the residents of southeastern North Carolina, and as long as the Reverend Scott Gilmer in the class of 1998 blesses his congregation at Gravely Memorial United Methodist Church, my work will continue. I seem to always be blessed by the presence of remarkable people. When I officiated college football, I worked alongside the best ever. Many of my former teachers and coaches are Hall of Famers. The senior leadership team and my administrative assistant at Wingate are both brilliant and hardworking. My sons, Ryan and Sam, and their families are so dear and caring. To Brooks, Hannah, and Tara, I really do love you to the moon and back. Thanks to Marcella, my family, my friends and encouragers. A few weeks ago, I received a note from an 88-year-old wife of a retired faculty member from Wingate, in which she said, "Thank you. You have made all of our lives better." That's all I could ever ask. Thanks to all of you for the opportunity to lead Wingate University and to make people's lives better. It has been both a joy and an honor. Thank you.